should. I'll know from here
Okay.
if it is.
Nope,
I might have to subway order it.
that's fine.
It's not too hot. Only if you want to have some now. Otherwise, I'll put it back over here. Not ready yet. Okay. I wonder if. Okay, there we go.
What's this?
So, that was a different update. Supposed to comment. Supposed to comment. What should we say? Or business. Chat is open for business. All right, everyone. If you can hear, can I get a comment in the chat to let me know that you can hear us okay? I hear. All right, cool. Waiting on the audio. Thumbs up. Yes, we can hear you. Let's go. Delilah.
Yay.
All righty. All right, so should be good like that. We're going to get started in just a few moments. Give a few people a chance to get on in. One sec. Okay. This is the second in Lakesh T. This is the second high frequency living live that we're doing live show. We are intending on keeping this going every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern time live on YouTube. So anybody that wants to chime in, if you'd like to be a supporter slash sponsor of this show, High Frequency Living, feel free to reach out to me. We can discuss potential opportunities. We have our first sponsors in Lakesh Studio One. And Lakesh Studio One is a affiliate and ally of the Suns who specializes in quantum light property clearing service. They specialize, or Inlakesh Studio One specializes in the call for the truth card readings. Right here, these are the call for the truth cards produced by Of the Sun, inspired from Lao Tzu of the Sun. Inlakesh Studio One does virtual card readings. You can get 1 card, 3 cards, 6 card pools. You'll get reading recommendations for teas and other supporting tools that you can use to support what you've learned and what you're learning through your property clearing or through your card readings as well. So shout out to Inlakesh Studio One. The website we will put. Oh, is that Inlakesh Studio One right in the chat as we speak? There we go. Inlakesh Studio One. Will you type in your website in the chat just so everybody has a reference point for it, and then we'll put it in the description as well when we post this video. Yes, she said, thank you. Yes, yes, thank you very much. So when it comes to anyone else who might be interested in promotion or sponsorship through our chat, through our this live show, get in while we're here on the couch chilling. This is only our second episode. Get in early before we get popping. Just tell you right now, I see what's to come. And I would recommend that if you're interested in us working together in that manner, I'd recommend that you consider if your venture business offerings are in the same affiliation or direction as what high frequency living stands for and represents, which is pretty self-explanatory. However, also applies to all areas of life. So it applies to food, clothing, shelter, spiritual, mental, physical, all areas, family things. So if your business is in support or supports living life in a high frequency, then I think we're the right channel for you to promote on, because that's everybody who's chiming in, who listens in and watches is in support of that as well. Speaking of the food aspect of it, it seems like it's been a theme lately. Dealing
Yeah.
with food. You just did a video with the avocado pudding showing. I hope everybody sees. Check out our Instagram, High Frequency Living. We posted a video, a little tutorial video of making avocado pudding. My mom did. She posted that. We'll post it on the YouTube channel as well in the next couple days. But it's been a theme lately speaking about or dealing with food and enjoying the process of being connected with your food and and just the process, let alone the wholeness and the uh how full of an experience or fulfilling of an experience it is to have your hands on your food, to be a part of the process the whole way, to see it from beginning to end. But so all of this theme kind of reminded me of when I was young, when I was a child in our house. I remember we had a kitchen table, and because we had at this one specific house, we had a small kitchen. So our kitchen table was up against a wall, and right behind me there was a countertop. And at the edge of that countertop, you all remember those big, heavy metal wheatgrass juicers where where you they anchored it onto the end of the countertop, and then it had a crank, it had like an arm crank, and it had some kind of something up top where you put the wheatgrass in. I still remember being like, I'm talking maybe 8, maybe younger than that. And I remember right behind my seat at the kitchen table that I always sat at was this wheatgrass cranker. And I remember my mom would be juicing, cranking that wheatgrass, juicing that wheatgrass, and the smell of it would, oh my God, drive me crazy. I could not take it. I could not. I know, that's the whole thing. But anyway, since I can remember, that's been that type of experience has been my experience. That we're talking about hand cranking wheatgrass, juicing the wheatgrass so my mom could take it. Now, why were you juicing wheatgrass when I was 7 and 8 years old so seriously? Because this was like a real thing. Like,
Well, I want to explain why I'm in my Farmer Joe clothes
oh,
today because today was my day to be scheduled to go to the blueberry patch, and I ended up at the farmer's market and I bought my fruit in season. So I have fresh peaches in season and I have blueberries today, and I'm excited to make something else for a new video coming up with the fresh peaches
mhm,
and the blueberries. But back to your childhood memories.
right.
So, at that time, when you were at that age, I realized, I understood the history of my family, although not all of it had become clear to me at that time.
Mhm,
So, in my family, the women have often would be over 200, 250 pounds. Many of the women in the family, many had hypertension. And there was this um, understanding that many of the women in the family had had cancer. And it turns out that my mother actually had cancer and died of it. One of my sisters had cancer, and I also had cancer. And I chose to treat myself, and I had read especially Anne Wigmore's material, which she was the one who had the institute, the Hippocrates Institute in Boston, and then later in Puerto Rico. And she was a European who had been in the war in World War II, and when they were in the middle of the war, they didn't have medicines.
Hmm.
And when the soldiers would get hurt and the different things would happen, they treated it with grass. And so I read about this, like they would put
Like
grass,
topically.
they would put it in the wounds,
Right.
but also the more I studied, the more I learned about it. And I learned that, King Nebuchadnezzar in the Bible, when his brain wasn't working very well, his wise men said, you should eat the grass like a cow. And then in the story that's told in the Bible, they went on to say, then he became wise again.
Uh-huh.
And so there were many, many stories, and the institute was well documented. And um, the idea of drinking the rejuvac, which was the juice from the wheatgrass as it grew. During the time when you were that age, I was growing 5 and 6
Yeah,
trays
I
of
remember.
grass
Yeah.
a day and harvesting the therapeutic dose and then making sure I got it in me.
So was this, did you already know that you had some cancer or no?
Yes, I
Okay.
did know I
So
had
what gave you
cancer.
the audacity to try to heal that yourself rather than dealing with the doctor? Like,
What
what
gave
got
me?
into you? Yeah, exactly. Who you think you are?
Uh, I thought I was emboldened because I had healed you.
Ah,
I was emboldened, and I had discovered a secret that people don't know. I had discovered that Mother Nature is alive and intelligent and will operate with you, and that all of the things that are connected are also alive, that the food is alive, and that it can be programmed, and that you can be in touch with it. So I had discovered this, and I was living in a world where nobody else knew.
yeah,
But I knew. I knew that I could talk to the seeds. I knew that I could wet the seeds with my own saliva and they would have my DNA, and I could plant the wheatgrass. The wheatgrass would grow and I could harvest it and I could juice it and it would light me up.
yeah. So nugget for everybody: when you have a victory or start claiming victories, you start to expect that you can be victorious in all the other
Yes.
areas of your life. So
Yes.
you said that you had a success with healing me through the same process on your own, and that's what gave you the goal to try to heal the next thing in yourself. But that's stacking victories, but you have to embrace and claim your victories in order to start to expect and make your baseline, your frequency, that you can claim victories in all areas of life. And so I just want to
I think that's
get that
excellent. I'm
nugget.
so
Yeah.
glad you said it because I was not that person before your illness. I wasn't even that person as relates to me, but in the desperate desire to learn everything I could learn about food because you were allergic to everything and couldn't eat any of the food,
Yeah.
I learned some other things. And once I realized that I could speak to it, I could ask for help. I was part of a system, part of creation where I was not alone, and that everything was waiting to cooperate.
Hmm.
And that I just had never been taught that there was any level of cooperation available. So once I knew that, I was very clear. I knew how long it was going to take. I knew what my therapeutic dose would be. I had already spoken to myself, my body, and the wheatgrass. I'd already gotten clear information. It took exactly the length of time that I was told. I knew exactly what the dose should be, and I'm still here.
Yeah, that was
But
a
I have
minute ago.
But even when my father died, he also had cancer, and when he died, so it is something that ran in the family. But what I discovered really was about how the mental causation of how what you think causes something to move into distortion in your body, and then the whatever the disease is comes in to say to you, look, you're thinking the wrong thing. You're doing the wrong stuff. You're eating the wrong thing. You're married to the wrong
Okay,
person.
pause. So you're saying, just so we're clear, the disease, the illness, the thing that doesn't belong, it's you're saying that that's information. That is
Absolutely.
not the it is not the new you or the new landscape of what your life is. It's something to let you know about the path you're on or the kind of the karma of the decisions you made up to that point.
The you're right. The whatever is going on within you, you are um, created or established in truth. What the further you move away from truth, the distortion of truth, the more things become broken or don't work, or you wear glasses, or you can't
Yeah.
hear, or you're limping, or you hurt yourself when there's nobody around but you. That's all you.
Hmm.
That's not the blueprint. So that means that your thought process or
It's
whatever,
all you're doing, is what you're saying. It's not it's not the original you. It's not the pure you, but it's your doing.
it's not, it's more complicated than that.
Okay.
It is the you that has it that you are not conscious of that has lived many lifetimes.
Okay.
It is the you that lives as your grandparents, your great grandparents, all of your six generations of your grandmothers. It is all of that information. That's why it's relevant that I said my mother died of cancer.
Gotcha.
It's relevant because my living DNA was connected to living DNA that had that algorithm in it. However, so that was the understanding that I was growing into having, was that the living DNA has an effect on the physical material unless you choose to evolve beyond it. So that's where the saying I always say is, don't eat what they eat, don't think what they thought, won't get what they got. That's where I learned
And
that.
that's about your own lineage.
That's about my own
Yeah,
lineage
gotcha.
and my own patterns of thinking. So I had patterns of thinking that the women and the men in my family had that led to thoughts that led to the distortion in the material, or cancer needing to come in to help me rectify. And in my case, cancer came in and terrorized me enough
Mm,
that it helped me kind of gather myself
yeah.
and correct my thought pattern. But that's the case for most of us. It's just that most of us are not available to examine or don't have such clear. I had such clear archetypes. I could see my sisters.
Yeah.
I had such clear understanding of what happened to them when they would get exactly the age I was at the time, which was 45. When they got to that age, 45, 46, I could see what happened to them. I could see the parallels and the similarities in their choices, in their life, in their diet. And then I could see that I was automatically, if I didn't stop the roll, I was going to roll into that same position.
So let's take a second and I want to say that saying again. This is because this is going to go. You said if you eat what they eat, what is it?
If you eat what they eat, you think what they think, then you get what they got.
If you eat what they eat, you think what they think, you get what they got.
That's
Clip that.
that that is that's what's now called the epigenetics or the ancestral ties. This is what, when doctors look at you and they say who had something in your family, and then they say, okay, you're going to have it because it's in your genetics. That's true unless you exert your will not to.
Side story, real quick.
Yeah.
On that note, I'm sure a lot of you all are familiar with Tavares of the Sun. He's 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 a main character in the of the Sun world and the of the Sun family. He was just sharing with us that he went back to a family reunion, and he while they were having their traditional family reunion cookout style food, the mac and cheese, the fried this, fried that, and the rest, he was over there having a mango and an avocado and a few other things like that, his nuts and berries and things like that, for that exact reason,
Right.
that if he eats what they eat and he thinks what they think, he gets what they got. And his whole direction of life has been to break the curses, break the repetitive behaviors of the family. So in order for him to do that, he has to do something different, even when he's amongst, even when he's submerged. Actually, That's the most important time
Yes.
because they get to see that boy shining bright and they want a piece of that, but they get to also see this is how I get it. It's that mango and that avocado and those nuts and the berries. Not saying that that's all you can eat, but that's an example. And for Tavares, that's real, just so y'all know.
But it's just like what you said when you said, "How? Who gave you the audacity? What made you think you should be able to heal yourself?" Well, you go and eat mangoes and avocados with your relatives when they're eating fried chicken and barbecue ribs. They be like, "Who told you? Grandma lived to be 900 years old eating
Hmm. Yeah.
barbecue ribs." So, no matter how you look at it, when we break the sphere of the level of intelligence that we're operating at, there's always a pushback.
Right.
So I had that pushback too. It just didn't matter because uh, the everybody gets the lesson they need at the level they get it at.
Hmm.
Whether it's your child is sick or you are your mortality is threatened, and quite frankly, what really like so many people, life had not been so wonderful that I was really holding on to it that much. But this is kind of unfortunate, but true, and many people may be able to understand this. I couldn't think of anyone I could leave my children with. I couldn't afford to die because then who would take care of my children? And what were they going to feed them? That was like it was a big thing in my mind that if my relatives would feed them into the situation they had fed themselves into. So
I
I,
hate to say this and not to not to get messy on this live stream, but I have that thought about my children with their mom. Like, geez, they're with her. What are they being fed right now? Literally. Oh my God. So,
so
anyway.
it was such that was really, it wasn't nearly as, well, however people think it is. The motivating force was, oh, I had a 4-year old at the time,
Hmm.
and then I had you, and I had your brother and sister, but I was like, I gotta live at least 20 more years,
Yeah.
so I better get to it. And then go buy me some wheatgrass seeds, and start drinking Rejuvac, and start get cranking out that wheatgrass that you didn't. The whole house smelled of it.
Yeah. Torturous.
And I made the children take it too. So
Yeah.
it's like we're all going to be free.
No, that's real.
And I actually don't recommend that method because it's so traumatic
Intense. Yeah.
and it's very intense. And I felt sick every day.
Mm.
Every day I would take it at the therapeutic levels and I would have to go lay down because I would be so nauseous. So I would be so nauseous that like take it and go lay down and try to go to sleep so I could sleep through
Yeah.
the uncomfortability because it turned me from acid to alkaline so quickly. It was very uncomfortable. And that went on for 4 months.
Okay. So,
So
what's
I
one?
don't recommend this.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
This is what I did, but
We're telling stories. We have now, these are 25 plus years old. So we have now updated and
yes,
gained more insight on practices and ways. And most of all, which is funny because what I was just about to get to is focusing a little more about mental and energetic causations rather
yes,
than the physical.
yes.
So what were some of the main themes that you think attracted the cancer besides the lineage stuff in your own specific life that you experienced or that you discovered played a part of making your body hospitable to the cancer?
Well, I'll tell you one of the things that I did later to make sure that I would stay healthy.
Mhm.
I started to dance. I started taking dance classes. I started to dance. I wasn't bringing enough joy into my physical body. There wasn't enough pleasure, enough laughing. There was a lot of things that, were worrisome or that what I would say at the time, I would say, I'm just in thought about this. Where somebody's like, well, they look at your face and they say, well, what's wrong with you? And I say, I'm just in thought about something. But I didn't necessarily
You
have.
hear that, dear girlfriend? We know that you're not just in thought about something, that you're over there stressing out or you're thinking about this. And when you say I'm fine, you know you're not fine. But go ahead.
So it was this idea that there wasn't enough joy, and there hadn't been enough the 10 years while it was growing.
Yeah.
Like the cancer didn't arrive overnight. The cancer was something that became activated when I dropped it out of a frequency that that was alkaline and came and went into an acid frequency, and it began to take hold and grow, and there was a ripe environment, and there was a path already through my genetics.
Yeah.
But so one of the things that I noticed is that I didn't think of myself as thinking negative, but what I should have been saying, am I in joy? Am I in gratitude? Am I happy? And I wasn't any of those things.
One of your last YouTube videos you did, you spoke about how joy is one of the highest frequencies on the chart,
It's
and
gratitude.
gratitude, but joy is up there as
Oh yeah,
well. And
yeah,
being in joy can pop you out of a lot
yes,
of the things, the state that allows for disease and other low frequencies,
right.
right?
And yes, and so when we're in states of maybe you're not crying, maybe you're not depressed, but there's this low level unhappiness, this low level, everything is not perfect. And then when you think of some victory you had where you spoke before a group or you stood up and said something important and everybody applauded, that's closer to joy.
Right. Yeah.
So so wherever your everyday place is, one way to see it is to see how close do you feel like when everybody was applauding you to what your day-to-day experience is. Generally, we're really in general, I'll speak for myself, I was trying to applaud myself as much as I could, but I wasn't doing a very good job of it.
Yeah.
I was busy about the busy being busy. I was busy feeding information and actions into a system that I thought should be, instead of understanding that we all need joy. I wanted the children to be happy and I wanted them to laugh and play, but I didn't think about me laughing and playing and being happy. And so it escaped me. And it escaped me so long that the cancer came in to let me know this is what happens when you're not in joy and when you're not in gratitude. So I began to understand that the thought pattern that I had grown up with was one where it was that low level unhappiness, borderline on depression, nothing, the glass is always half full. Somebody always owes you something. Somebody should have done something for you. You know, whoever your parents were, whoever your lover, husband was, they didn't do what they should have done. They should have helped you more. They should have defended you. I lived in all that. All of that was part of my
Yeah.
landscape, and it was going to kill me for sure. It killed my other relatives.
Hmm.
I have proof. So when once I began to change my chemistry through the outside intervention of using the intelligence of wheatgrass, I realized and began to search for other powerful magical foods, but I also began to look for how could I change my chemistry without using the food. And that's where the mental causations come in. That's where, you see, if you watch my videos, I'm laughing all the time. That's very on purpose. It's not an accident. I'm in that. That is my frequency. Whatever you say, I'm turning it into lemonade. Whatever is happening, I'm going to make it better. I have the power to do that. I have done that. I encourage everyone to do that.
It's a part of what keeps you alive, literally.
It's
Literally.
literally
Yeah.
well, so, there's this idea of you can be alive, but I would like to die alive. Like
Yeah, I remember you said that. I heard that a few years ago. You said that. Go into that for a second.
so
What's the plan?
the plan is that nobody gets out of here. We all know you don't get out of the third dimension alive.
Right.
And nobody gets out of this alive, although there is no death. There is no death, but nobody gets out of here alive. So you want to live with the richness of life and to die the death of a living being. So you go to sleep and you don't wake up. You don't want to end up with bits and pieces being taken away in a hospital or on so much medication that you are no longer aware of where you are or whether you're dead or alive. So all of that is relevant. All of that is, so I want to make sure I die alive. That's why I was at the farmer's market today getting these beautiful peaches from Georgia, these beautiful new blueberries in season, and making sure I'm eating life, electrical aspects of food that can give me life. And I'm looking at things to see, blueberries are magical food. Just the color. How many items that you eat are that color blue? What does that
Right,
give us?
exactly. Yeah.
What is the anacyan? What is the magic of the color blue? And how many months in season can you get a juicy fresh peach? Like,
You're
oh,
really in love with these peaches right now, right?
here I
Yeah.
am. Whenever food is in season, we should just be so grateful and eat the food in season. Eat the root vegetables in the winter, eat the fruit in the summer, eat the green things in the spring, eat the food as it comes up in the season because you are that in your season
Hmm.
along with the food because we're all part of the earth and the cycles of the earth. And what happens as we age is that our needs are different, but what doesn't change is that we need real nutrition, and processed food is not real food, and it doesn't have the electrical charge that can keep you alive. So a can of green beans could sustain you maybe during war, but they can't make you alive.
Yeah, exactly.
A peach, now that's a different thing.
Yeah. Those things can add life, add years to you.
Yes,
Right,
they can
exactly.
that can clean you out, it can detox you, it can make you ready. It's delicious. It's all of the things that flaming Cheeto
Oh,
chips
God. Yeah.
are not.
So to circle back to
Yeah,
the idea of being alive through the whole extent of your life,
yeah.
even into your transition, I want to tell a quick story.
Okay.
You might not even remember this from the same vantage that I do. So
Okay.
this, I'm a disclaimer. This is a positive story, although it does include someone dying. It is a positive story. All right. So
It, it that idea is part of life.
exactly.
We should not act like, oh,
Yeah.
you don't get out of this alive. Death is part of life.
It's all
Okay.
so 10-year-old me was very accustomed to if you were on the last live stream last week, I shared with everybody about how my dad used to spend a lot of time out of the country, and when he would come in town or he would come back, he would spend a week or so in the States, and then he would have to go back to Africa often, sometimes other places too, but primarily Africa. When he would be back in the States, I would stay with him on the guaranteed the weekends. If it was summer, I would stay with him longer. However, let's say it was a school during the majority of the year, it was school time. So I would stay with him on the weekends. I vividly remember this was a Friday night, which traditionally, Friday nights, I went to my dad's house and stayed with him through the weekend. And I vividly, clearly remember my mom, her husband, my father, and then my dad, myself, my brother, my younger brother, were at like a dinner on a Friday night. We're all so this was in the sense of the world, this was a very positive or very elevated dynamic of ex-husband and wife, new husband, children, the whole dynamic. It was I'm very blessed to have had that experience. However, the point of it is that I'm 10 years old, Friday night. Um, brought my backpack to dinner. We're all meeting for dinner. I brought my little backpack with my clothes in it and all that to go stay at my dad's house. This is, to the best of my knowledge, he's regular as any other day, any other time that I've seen him my whole life. And everything in our lives, everything in that day was regular. We all go to dinner, everything's pleasant. So at the end of dinner, I got my bag, I'm ready to go with my dad. All right, so I'm getting ready to go with my dad, my mom, Wayman, who's my father, and my brother. They're gonna go home. Everything's supposed to be all right. My dad tells me, I remember this clearly. He says, I got some business I have to take care of. I have to do something tonight. So spend the night at your mom's and I'll pick you up and your brother. I'll pick both of you all up tomorrow. So, of course, to me, right there, red flags are going off like, what? Like, this isn't the routine. This isn't what happens. When you're in town, I stay at your house, period. That's just how it works. It's Friday night. There's no reason. I'm like, what could my dad have to do? You know, I'm over here thinking like, this is just in my brain. I'm like, what could he have to do that's important? You know, it's Friday night. I'm supposed to be at his house. So it's threw me off, of course, and I'm like, I'm sure I gave a little pushback on it. I'm sure because that's just part of what children do, and that's really what I do about a lot. But but anyway, so he firmly made it clear, like, I'll pick you and your brother up tomorrow but not tonight. Can't spend the night tonight. Go home with your mom. And my mom gracefully helped that transition happen where she wasn't like, well, why are you not taking your baby? Why all the rest of that. She just, I remember the setup, the scene. I remember us all standing up in a semicircle. I still remember vividly see this. I remember how I felt. And so we go home, get over it, wake up, me and my little brother is very excited. My dad's gonna pick me up, whatever. We wake up early, bright and early Saturday morning. We're used to doing that anyway, watch our cartoons, all that. So let's say 7-ish, something like that in the morning. We wake up. I immediately start calling my dad calling his house at the time. Start calling his house phone to see what time you gonna pick us up so we can be ready. We're watching cartoons. We want to know so we can be ready. I'm calling, no answer. Calling, no answer. 30 minutes later, calling, no answer. It goes on for about an hour or so. Then I'm like, now we're starting to get a little antsy. We're feeling away. So we tell my mom, she starts investigating a little more. Long story short, my dad passed in his sleep that night. And it's clear to me as an adult, he not only knew that he was going to pass, but he lived all the way up until he went to sleep and passed fully to the extent of us having a family. I mean, it was regular for us to hang out, so to say. However, us being at dinner, having a family experience, and he also protected me from waking up to a dead dad in the
Right,
bed with me
right.
at 10 years old. And it's to me, it's like it gives me goosebumps to think about how not only blessed and protected I've been from so many certain dynamics and situations, but also how the people in my life, even if they didn't fully know it, they were they were operating at such a high level to where it created such a path for success. It cleared a path for success and ease and grace in my life in so many different areas. And that's what I thought of when you said about dying alive. I thought like he lived literally to the time he passed fully. And he was in service the whole way, even to that night of making sure that the way that we were going to deal with his passing would be with the least amount of drama. So I
Yeah.
remember you went over to his house the next day and you found out that he had passed or whatever in that manner. It was something to deal with, obviously. However, I couldn't have asked for a better way of it happening rather than seeing the man who I looked up to being nothing like a shell of himself for a year in a home or, any of the other things that could have happened. I'm so grateful that he passed in his sleep in the way that he did. So I just want to say that with uplifting and with life. So let's not all everybody, take this the way it's intended with all positive and great and gratitude.
No, there is this understanding that I think people don't have that would be good for them to have, that death does not walk up to you, clobber you on the head, and drag you off. No man dies but by his own hand, so to say. So what that means is when a person's ready to go, they relinquish their hold on this dimension and the opportunity to move on to something else happens.
Hmm.
And what you may not know about that night, and I don't know if I've ever told you, is that of course your younger brother was not his child; it
Right.
was from another marriage, and he had said to me, "I'm going to pick up him. I'm going to pick him up too, so that he knows I love him as much as I love Ahad." And so um, that kind of clarity allows for a good death.
Yeah.
It allows for, and it's not to say that other deaths are not, but the idea of not having to suffer and others see you suffer and then they suffer because you're suffering in a world where suffering is held up as like, we need to suffer, suffering is how we've been born and what we should expect, and that, but not all of us believe that. Not all of us are willing to suffer to keep the status quo, and he wasn't. So it will be the same. I I would hope that it will be the same for me. That when I'm ready to go,
So you
I'll,
telling? She's saying everybody heard it. She's telling me to tell them pull the plug. That's a joke.
but so that's a interesting understanding. But the key to this is less about our family and what happened to you, but more about what can happen for everyone. There is no staying here forever.
Yeah.
There is no staying here forever. And evolution is part of creation. The divine plan is to evolve. Leaving here is part of the evolutionary process, in the same way that maybe healing yourself is an evolutionary process. Learning to do things in a different way, being pressed into service to self and family through events that we might think of as catastrophic, but I don't actually think of that time as being a catastrophe. I think of it as I became who I am.
Right.
That
Literally.
process,
That's why we're talking about this because all of this is
yeah,
the groundwork for what you do now, why you do what you do now, and what's led you up to the stage. And I think that a lot of us in our own rights have very similar types of experiences or threads of our lives that run very similarly.
absolutely. Everyone is challenged and everyone answers the challenge at whatever level of their own matriculation of their process.
Hmm.
There were many other challenges. These happen to be the ones that you're aware of and we're familiar with, but they were very pivotal for me in terms of me understanding what other people go through. I have many people I work with who have cancer, and I understand what they had to be thinking to get it.
Yeah.
And I also understand, how they may need to have a dance class and wiggle afterwards.
Okay, so tell me
Yeah,
a little, give me a little glimpse when you do your one-on-one work, um, and someone is in a near crisis type health situation. Let's use cancer as an example, and they're like, "I've got this cancer, the doctors are saying such, 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 and such and such. I've been referred to you because, I heard you would deal with it a different way." And you start telling them to do dances and you start telling them about certain types of non-immediate seeming solutions. I know you give them more, but what's a glimpse of that kind of interaction? How is it received and or how should it be received?
everything is very individual, and the most important thing is for me to find out what the person's belief system is.
Mhm.
I need to know, do they believe that they can do something about it? The most recently, the clients I've worked with, um, who are also working with other systems of healing, mostly I noticed they have not decided to be alive. The biggest thing in the story that we just went over, from the part of my having been sick, is that I decided to live so that I could make sure that my children got grown.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. There isn't anything bigger than deciding. If you just go along, yes, I'm sick, and that I'm just going to do what the doctor said, and yes, my grandmother died, and her mother before her, and they all died of the same thing, and that push of the genetics, if you don't decide, I'm not going to do that, the push of the genetics is the agreement. Silence is consent. Not speaking up within your own mind saying, I'm going to choose to live. And in the world we're in, things are difficult and there is a lot of suffering and people are challenged to make those decisions. But the very first question is, have you decided whether you want to live or not?
Right.
That's the very first question I'm asking. It's like, and sometimes people are like, I have to get back to you.
Yeah.
It's like, I'll have to tell you next week when I talk to you because I need to think about it. I never thought, and
Am I
often,
willing to go to the extent it's gonna take?
yeah, are you willing to
Yeah,
like,
I get you.
to do what it's going to take to get to where you think you want to go? Or do you just want to soften your experience? Because that determines what I say.
Because that's if that's where they're at and they're
Mm.
and that's what they're choosing, then we can only honor that or
I mean,
respect that.
it's
Yeah.
in respect of free will. I'm in respect of whatever anyone chooses. Now, whether I will participate in it or not
Gotcha.
is in respect to myself.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
But
Gotcha.
well, of course, I'm in respect of however a person chooses to have their experience, and I am also very clear that no one can be in judgment of whether, like, you have to do it the way that I did it, or you have to do it the way someone says you should do it. Many times I'm working with people who are doing several things because they don't truly adhere to any one of them. And because they don't truly adhere to anyone, I have to discern that so that I can allow them to be doing what it is they really believe in.
Yeah, I got you.
And then I can support what they really, what part of them I can support.
So when I do consults for new potential clients with Of the Sun, one of the things I do often share is like, if you're gonna start the work, let's make a determination before you start that you're going to give this the opportunity. You're going to give yourself whatever period of time you decide, but give yourself fully to this experience for that time so that whatever there is that can be gained, we reach the maximum of it. The more you spread your attention and your thoughts and your energy and your focus, that's the less that you'll get out of any one of those
Yeah,
things.
it's a funny situation though because people are like, "Oh, okay, as long as it doesn't involve me not eating chicken,
Right. Yeah.
as long as it doesn't involve the thing I'm addicted to or the thing I'm hypnotized by or the people that I want to be with or so it's really a choosing. And in my own case, I had a choosing. I had to come to terms with, because I could have easily, based on my own personal desires, not chosen to live.
Yeah.
But in the circumstance I was in the intelligence of how things are done, it presented itself in a way where the options, like if I had had like the perfect relative, I might
It
not
would
be
have
here.
made it. Yeah, it would have. If you got along with even one of your seven sisters, you- seven sisters, not one could babysit us. She wasn't having it. Isn't that crazy, y'all? Samara said, "Shallow efforts equal shallow results." Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Yes, it's true, but it's true in every aspect of our lives. It's a universal truth. What he's just saying is a universal truth. In the cases we've talked about, we're at the life is on the line,
Yeah.
and it becomes clear. You're not when these things happen to you like that. You're not unaware. It's not a question mark. You know when your life is on the line.
Hmm.
You know when you're watching somebody who might be dying. I knew that your father was going to die.
Hmm.
So these are things that when you're paying attention, you're in touch with that because it's a dramatic shift in your reality. Even if we tell ourselves, "Well, you couldn't know," and "How can you prove it?" and "What scientific paper was written about it?" You know,
Yeah.
I trust my own experience. My own experience told me all of this, and I trust me. you know.
That when you talk about your own experience, it reminds me about uh the family lineage and the things that have to be broken and worked through. When I was a child, having the bad eczema, having really bad allergies, being allergic to literally everything in every different area of everything of the world, period. Um, and although I had a level of healing from that, I do know that something that happened and I didn't find out till afterwards was that I was healed. I was healed. My body was healed. You were healed through that experience. However, there was deeper levels of clearing and healing that had to be done
Yes.
in our family dynamic. And the way I found this out is because I repeated the same exact experiences that literally almost to the T, the type of experience that my mom went through, my mom and my dad together went through in conceiving and birthing me, and then what happened the few years after. I repeated that same cycle with my daughter being born.
Right.
Literally almost to the T, like born perfect little baby in the parents' eyes, everything's good. And then slowly but surely within the few weeks and months later, the inflammation and the obviously the physical eczema, but the thing that really got to me the most was the the what I considered the anger and the hurt that she would experience from what was in her trying to come out. However, I literally, when I saw that in her, what realized was I was seeing me and her mom, and I was seeing a representation of our dynamic relationship, thoughts, motivations leading up to that present moment. And I was basically looking at myself and seeing, although I thought I was healed of eczema as a child, I went to all of these allergy things, all the allergies, all that stuff, everything, life was good. Here it comes back again because there was still family stuff that needed to be cleared away and resolved. And I repeated a lot of the same exact type of stuff my dad did. I I also was a part of the same kind of creating the environment that you experienced on the woman's side
Hmm.
that created the perfect environment for the eczema to be there and be at the degree and inflamed as it was.
Right.
And then I also had to say, I know how to fix this. I know how to heal this. I know all the answers already. That's the evolution. The evolution is she did the work, she did the research, she did all the work that my mom put into healing me, transitioned to where I had the answers already. So my daughter's ability to be able to come out of that was far sped up, and I had so much more of a support system. But you cleared the path for that. You broke through some of the barriers so that I could keep working towards it. And my goal is that it continues, forward. Although our family's genetics might be predisposed to certain things like eczema, it doesn't have to be that way because we've cleared and cleared and cleared from generation to generation. What's your thoughts on that?
So I'd like you to share an example of like when your daughter would have a experience and how did what did you know to do? I think that's
Yes.
relevant.
Well, um, using the what you spoke about last week about the milk situation, I do remember that at very early on, within a few months, she had to stop nursing. So the whole conundrum, it was literally a repeat of the
Yeah.
same thing. Oh, so can you deal with the formula? You try the formula. And because we were coming from different backgrounds as far as experiences, there was a tug of war of should we go the formula route, should we go the natural route, et cetera, et cetera. So we tried formulas and it just further inflamed everything. It just made it worse and worse. Then I simply said, I know the answers. So I started boiling vegetables, literally beets, carrots, even plantains, celery, quite a few other things. I would boil them, take skin it, boil it, blend it, and give her these juice bottles of just straight veggies, and it will have a sprinkle of fruit in it as well. And she would destroy these bottles. I'm talking 4 months old, 5 months old, 6 months old, and she would just get so much happiness and nutrients. Now, obviously, she will not do that now. She's 7 years old, but at that time, it was like a immediate. I know the answer, and I never was told. That's the funny thing is I was never like my mom never set me down and said you have to do this and this and this to do it, but it was in me to do it, and I was able to step right into it
Right.
very smoothly and easily. That's one example that mirrored what you did
Yes,
when it
it
came
did
to the
very much.
same exact thing like that.
I'd like to mention that all genetics are not the same, and certain families have neurological issues, certain families have, heart issues, or they have liver issues or skin issues. This is just this particular dynamic in our epigenetics
Yeah.
when we are not in the environment that will allow us to be happy. So when we have chosen circumstances and we don't demand to be at our best in them. So this is never about another person. This is always about you learning your power to be correct with you and love yourself because, and this is a cliche, but if you don't love you, you can't give that to another person.
Yeah.
So in my situation is it was very similar. The circumstances were different than anything I had ever experienced. Many things happened and it left me like most people in our world, like this is not right. This is not how I'm not supposed to feel this way. But I didn't have the clarity that it was my responsibility to make myself feel
Okay.
better.
Yep.
It was my responsibility. You cannot make me happy any more than your father could have.
Yep.
I can allow myself to be happy and I can do things that bring that in, but I didn't, in those years, I didn't understand that. And so it's the most blessed thing that ever happened to me because it allowed me to bring out of me what our world does not. It didn't, there's nothing better that could have happened to me
Yeah.
than to have experiences where I saw the contrast and saw my responsibility for all that was mine.
Yeah. That's exactly how I felt too. And I didn't understand exactly like that, but I felt that. That's
Right.
exactly how I felt. I was like, there's no, even having a mother who's a healer, I didn't think, oh, let me just give my baby to my mom. It brought up in me like, no, this is my chance to
Yes.
to step up, to be who what I mean, who I want to be what's within me to be. And it's and I also saw it was my doing.
Yes.
I mean, I'm
Yes.
telling you, it
It
hit me
is.
so hard. Uh, but I couldn't really communicate it clearly. But I felt and knew like I'm truly seeing myself. I'm seeing myself, my actions, and the way I count it, I fully am subscribed to the idea of my karma. Like I'm seeing my karma, and I don't mean that in like negative or positive. It's just a cause and effect type
Yeah. Think of
way.
karma as the wave goes out, the wave comes back.
Exactly. Yeah.
And whatever you're doing, that's what you're calling for.
Exactly. That's exactly
Whatever
how I saw
means
it. Yep.
something to you, if whatever attracting factor is what means something to you, then that is what you will get and all that that entails. So what attracted me and what I was interested in brought back to me what the wave brought back in.
Exactly.
and
I
and
love that. I love that you can be real,
yeah,
and not you, but we, like, all of us can truly embrace our own power through that concept.
because you can come out of this equation with it equals sovereignty.
Yep.
It equals I am the sole responsible party for me. Like which then means you can't hurt me.
Yep.
And if you join me, great. But because I'm solely responsible, unless I give you permission, that's what I came out of that one. That's what healing actually is. It's not that, it's this idea of coming into contact with the clarity. So show your clarity, make your fear irrelevant. I have levels of clarity because of my own experiences that give me the value
Yeah.
that cannot be removed. You can't scare me into it. You can't like terrorize me into it because I still know I'm a value add in every situation. So what I'm really giving people is not, so to say, a healing. I'm showing them their value add in every situation. It's not always a win just to live. Sometimes the person heals and dies.
Yeah. I'm with you.
And that happens and I have had situations with the person like, I just don't want to hate everybody. I don't want to
Oh no.
feel like I'm like, don't die dead.
Die
Like,
alive.
like you've already acquiesced that you're not going to live, but let's make you not dead before you're gone.
Circle back. I
Yeah.
remember when you were talking about how nobody can do something to you now that we've had these certain experiences. It reminds me when we were little. My brother's 5 years younger than me. I remember when I would go and tell my mom like he did something to me. He kicked me in my face, or he stepped on me, or he did something. If I was to go tell on him for doing something, first thing she'll always ask is, why are you down there where he can do it? Why are you on the ground where he can kick you in the head? Why are you like, you literally have to stoop yourself down in order to be aggressed or abused? And if we really, really get that and elevate, it's all within our own power, what we experience, what our experiences are and all that. Now, obviously that's a layman's example, but
He was a
I
rascal.
remember,
He was
yeah,
really
my little brother was a
he was
rascal.
a rascal.
Trust me, y'all. And y'all, the ones who know him now, still a rascal. 27, 28 years old, still a rascal. I will say this though. I want to thank everybody who's in the chat. I'm gonna read a few names in a moment. I want to thank Inlakesh Studio One
Yes.
for supporting us and sponsoring this episode of High Frequency Living. If you're interested in a Call for the Truth card reading, visit inlakeshstudio1.com. You can sign up for a 1 card, 3 card, or 6 card spread. Uh, I will leave the surprise of what all you get with it for your experience. However, I will say this: Enliket Studio One specializes in clearing energy out of the homes, out of spaces and places that you operate from. So if you have a need for clearing, if you need your home cleared, if you need your office cleared, if you need your parents' home cleared, your children, whatever it might be, reach out to Enliket Studio One. You might even get a free card reading with your property clearing as well. So I appreciate Inlakesh Studio One for sponsoring this show. I want to thank Tavares, of course. I want to thank Madam Mystique Noir. I want to thank Aria S, Catherine Perry, Stacy Randall. Let's see who else. We got Delilah. We got a few others in here. I'd like to thank everyone who's active and a part of this conversation. If you have uh, anything to add or you see value in these, feel free to share whatever versions of these, whether it be the clips or the full videos, on your own socials or with people you love and care about, because we think that we're expressing our real experiences, and we hope that it has value, and we are pretty sure it does have value to everyone in their lives as well. So I would like to thank everyone for being part of this. Did you have anything final before we go?
Eat some peaches and blueberries. They're in season. Fruit in season is wonderful. Enjoy.
All right, everyone. Have a
Thank you.
great evening.
In Lakesh and Veritas, with honor, respect, and gratitude to you all. Thank you.